And what I'll usually do is I'll hit them with two offers. One is, hey, I want to buy your land today. Here's your cash price. And I want to buy your land today. Here's your seller financing price. And so I offer like a cash price to them that's obviously lower, probably 20 to 30% lower usually than my seller finance price.
John, welcome to the show today.
Thanks so much for having me, Garrett. Glad to be here.
Yeah, same. So you do something pretty interesting. You're making money doing land flips, and you're really into the land game, which I don't actually know too much about. How I'm more into income producing assets, but you figured out a way to make pretty lucrative living by flipping land. How did you get into that?
Yeah, and it's right. That's right. It's kind of a niche in real estate, I would like to think of it, and really got into it from a podcast like this. I found out some guy like myself came onto a podcast, was talking about land flipping, Side Hustle Show, episode 108. I mention it all the time. It's like, I don't know if it's a podcast that changed my life officially or what, but I don't know how I found it. Um, Listening to it one day on the way to and from the oil rigs. I used to be an engineer, and this guy comes on talking about land investing, land flipping, and how you can make monthly payments and cash flow with land. And that's something that really, I'm sure, like yourself, attracted me, is to have passive income from real estate. And I'd never thought about doing it with land. Of course, I've heard about rental houses and multifamily and all that stuff, but land, it just kind of really hit it off with me, I guess, because I was already working out in Texas on the land, oil field, all that. And so I heard about this on a podcast, bought a couple of courses, and I guess the rest is history. Started small with a couple of little deals and kind of just snowballed from there.
Cool. So how does it work exactly? How do you make money flipping land?
Yeah. So like most of real estate, you make money on the buy side, all of real estate really. And so we look for land deals, usually directly to landowners with either direct mail or SMS texting nowadays. So we reach out to landowners, offer them, depending on the piece, anywhere from 30 to 70 or 80 cents on the dollar. And it really depends what's going on and what sort of deal we can get. But of course, we go in, we buy it under value, we turn around and immediately flip it for more. Or in my case, I do a lot of subdividing. So I'll go in, buy a 100-acre chunk, break it into 10-acre pieces or 5-acre pieces. And just that subdividing alone creates a bunch of value. And so we're able to create like a value add similar to multifamily and go ahead and sell it for more money.
So why would somebody sell you their land for 70 or 80 cents on the dollar?
Great question. Or even some people, why would they sell for 30 or 40 cents on the dollar, which it just blows a lot of people's mind. And for the stuff that you're able to get 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, I like to think of it as more of a service that we're offering that seller. 30 to 40 cents on the dollar, that piece of land is probably in the middle of nowhere, a desert square, so they call it. No utilities, no electric. It's probably 5, 10, 20 grand is its value. And so for a seller to go online, list it, handle messages, handle deeds, paperwork, etc., they're just not going to know how to do that, and there's no interest in doing that. Right? It's like going to a garage sale. Why can you find something at a garage sale for $1 that you turn around and sell on eBay for 50 or $100? It's like that person did not take that extra effort and marketing and selling it the whole 9 yards. So it's the same thing with land on those smaller pieces. Now, on the larger pieces, no one in their right mind is going to take 30 or 40 cents on the dollar on their $1 million piece of land, right? You're not going to be able to go in and buy $1 million piece of land for 300, 400,000. At that point, the seller's more motivated. They're going to have a realtor involved, a broker. They're going to be, how can I get and extract as close to market value as possible? So why would someone sell at 70, 80 cents on the dollar? Well, they might be in a state. They need to close it out quickly. They might be looking for the cash. It might not be moving for various different reasons. A lot of times the brokers who list these pieces of land do a very poor job. So although they have a listing for $1 million piece of land, it's not moving because they have one iPhone photo with the finger covering it or poor marketing, etc. So that seller is more willing to accept a $700,000, $800,000 offer on their $1 million piece of land. So there could be multiple things going on, just like any asset. We go in and buy it at a discount. But certainly have to pay more for a bigger piece of land.
Sure. And then how do you put together the deals? Is this the straight cash? Do you have a way to finance it?
Yeah, so multiple ways to put that together. On the smaller pieces, you're most likely gonna have to pay straight cash. You know, the seller is gonna want their money now. It's only 10,000 bucks. You can find someone to help you, a funder, an investor. Lots of those folks out there. It's funny, I get that question a lot from a lot of beginners in the land space. It's like, where can I get funding? Facebook and Facebook groups, for you guys out there who are looking for money in real estate, especially for land. There's a lot of good land flipping Facebook groups. You should be in all those groups. There's people out there explicitly looking to fund land deals. Now, on the bigger pieces, I like to do a lot of seller financing. So I'll actually ask the seller to hold the note. And although I have to go through more leads to find sellers who are willing and able to do that, you'd be surprised there are plenty of people out there who want to sell or finance you a piece of land because they get monthly cash flow. They can defer their taxes over time, for any capital gains tax that they have to pay on the property, and they aren't moving their land otherwise. So they're more willing to accept a seller finance offer. So you can use seller financing, or you could use bank financing. I'm not a big fan of bank financing with land, though. There's a lot of hurdles that you have to jump through, especially if you're trying to subdivide and sell it off in chunks and get partial releases from the bank. And if you want to create wraps and wrap around notes like I do, I mean, using a bank is just kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I bet. So I mean, it's not, there's no cash flow on the asset. Then it comes down to basically your strength as an operator on the personal side. And then I'm sure that there's just a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
So seller financing, when you're seller financing a piece of land, what is it? What are typical terms? Like, what does it look like in a moderate case scenario?
5 to 10 year note and a pretty low down payment. I like to keep my down payments low because I want to sell the land quickly, and I'm confident that I can take it back and sell it for as much or more. It's funny. Some of these pieces of land are almost like ATMs, especially if you're in a landlord, quote unquote, landlord friendly state, such as Texas, where I do a lot of my deals. For instance, I have a gentleman right now who fell behind on his payments, isn't able to pay me. I've collected $4,000 or $5,000 from him on a 1 acre piece of land. I send him a notice. He doesn't respond. 20 days later, I send him another notice. Hey, your note has been accelerated and I'm going to take the land back. I collected, I think, probably $2,500 down from him and several monthly payments of 700 bucks. Now I'm going to go take the land back and sell it again. I'm able to do that because the land is a great piece of land. It's in a great market. So down payments relatively low on my side. I keep the notes 5 to 10 years. I don't like going longer than 10-year notes just because to me, 10 years is a long time. And also, if I want to sell those notes to investors, which I do a lot of, that note's going to be hit with a steeper discount, right? Because money in the future is worth a lot less than money today. So any investor who wants to come in and buy that performing land note is going to, 65, 70 cents on the dollar probably, as opposed to a 3, 4, 5 year note where they can give me 80, 85 cents on the dollar to come buy that note from me. So 5 to 10 year notes, I like getting my money back, obviously, as quickly as possible. I'll sell those notes, low down payments to make it move relatively quickly. If you can get more down payment, by all means, especially as a beginner, because you need that capital to go put back into your business and do more deals, right? So the higher down payment you can get, cool. Personally, I like to keep it relatively low, less than 5%. But some are going to want to be in that 10 to 20% range. And just know if you're looking for a 20% down and the piece of land's not moving, just drop your down payment and your buyer pool is going to become way wider and more folks are going to be able to afford it.
So you're talking about when you own the land and you have someone else that's buying it from you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also paying someone else to seller finance? Basically, they're seller financing to you, so you're kind of making this spread in between.
Yes, exactly. So what I was just talking about is when I'm selling the land, I'm asking for those low down payments, those monthly payments, but I also utilize seller financing when I'm buying a piece of land. And that way I'm able to pay the sellers. And basically what I do is I use a special deed of trust in Texas. It really has two special clauses in it. One that allows me to sell or lease all or part of the land while I'm paying the seller. So it's basically just removing that due on sale clause. And two, a clause that requires them to give me a partial release of a prorated fraction of the land. So if I have 100 acres I'm buying from them, I want to release 10 acres and sell it to Joe Schmo. I go to that underlying seller and do 1/10 times the remaining principal balance, and I get a partial release, it's called, for that fraction of land so that I can deliver free and clear title to my buyer. So really, it's all just in the deed of trust. It's just a couple of little tweaks that any real estate attorney can make for you or any of your listeners. And that allows me to, as you're saying, make the spread between what I'm paying the seller and between what my buyers are paying me. So it's kind of this arbitrage in a land game with cash flow.
What do interest rates look like on these seller financing deals typically?
I've never been able to get one at 0%, but I know folks who have. For me, it's typically in the 5 to 10% range. I'm usually offering them 7%. And what I'll usually do is I'll hit them with two offers. One is, hey, I want to buy your land today. Here's your cash price. And I want to buy your land today. Here's your seller financing price. And so I offer like a cash price to them that's obviously lower, probably 20 to 30% lower usually than my seller finance price to them, because obviously I don't want to pay cash. I don't want to go get my own financing. I want to use them as the bank. So it's like, hey, your $300,000 piece of land, I'll give you, $225 cash today, or we can seller finance 300,000 over 5 to 10 years at, call it, 7% interest.
Oh, cool. Got it. So they have the option. And then do you ever, if you are going and buying these deals in cash, have you ever taken on investors, or is just your own money?
Yeah, I've taken on investors. I love using private money. What I like doing now is finding private investors who want to come in and basically step into that seller's shoes when they won't hold the note for me. I'll find a private investor to come in and basically just seller finance it to me on my creative deed of trust that we just talked about. So then I can go subdivide it and sell it off. I see probably 12 to 18% interest in the private investor market for deals like that. It can be viewed as quite high, but when you're double, triple, quadrupling your money on a subdivision, these things move so quickly. It's like, yes, the interest is higher, but how much interest are you actually paying? Is it still worth it? Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about subdividing a little bit. So how does that differ from what you're doing now? So you're taking a piece of land, subdividing up into sections, and then who do you sell
Yes.
those subdivisions to?
So believe it or not, I actually do not work with a lot of developers. I think there's kind of this misnomer out there that you need to go out, you need to buy a piece of land, create paper lots, and sell it to a home builder who's going to build homes on it and cash you out, etc. I actually sell it straight to the average everyday person who's looking to get out of the city and have 1 to 10 acres of land where they can put a home on it. They can do a mobile home. They can have horses, livestock, and just get away from the city life. And there's a huge market for that right now. So basically what I go in and identify 30 minutes to an hour outside of, it doesn't have to be a major metropolis. DFW is obviously a huge metropolis and area, Dallas, Fort Worth, anywhere within an hour radius. But I've worked markets that are Fort Stockton, Texas, where it's 10,000 people. And there's still plenty of demand for 10-acre lots, 30 minutes outside the city. So 30 minutes to an hour outside of a city, good water. They're able to get water. They're able to have power. And I go in, subdivide a bigger chunk down to smaller lots. It's oftentimes pretty simple. And then I sell it on Facebook most of the time, Facebook Marketplace, some MLS, and landsofamerica.com, which is kind of the eBay for land, call it. And I sell it straight to the average user who's going to go out there and put a mobile home or build a barndominium, whatever they want to do with it. And that's kind of my bread and butter right now. To me, it's the best way to scale a land business is to subdivide.
So how, like, pieces of land, I mean, there's probably a decently small buyer pool for that. Like, how many people are looking for that specific thing? Is it, am I wrong? Is it pretty big?
I think it's pretty big, or maybe it's just because it's a competitive or a non-competitive market, more of a niche market. And so there's not, a million homes for sale. There's only a few people doing what I'm doing. But most of my stuff, these subdivides, we'll have them sold in 3 to 6 months. Like the one I did in Midland County, Texas, it was 74 lots. That was like a $5 million deal, my Jazz Acres subdivision. That all sold in 6 months. And I still get hit up probably 3 times a day. Hey, when you get more land out here? So the demand is there. I think it's growing actually because of all the craziness in today's world, political unrest, economy going crazy. People want to own something that's theirs. They can have it if they ever need it, go move out of the city, have, whatever they deem that they need for quote unquote doomsday or economic unrest, whatever. They like the security of, having a piece of land and something that's no one can bug them and it's their property.
That's super cool. So how do you, I just gotta ask you, how do you sell a piece of land? Because it's not like a
Yeah.
property, where you can throw a picture up of the side of the building or something. What does that look like on the marketing side?
Yeah, so drone photos are key. I think drone photos and video, we'll go out and take good drone photos and drone video of the property. I like to keep my stuff relatively straightforward. I don't show any of my land. So that's like one thing that's different. I actually don't like to work with realtors or brokers. And even if I was working with a broker, they wouldn't be out showing a piece of land, driving 30 minutes outside the office, 30 minutes back on a daily basis. That's just not practical. So we do it all online, post good photos, a solid description, good location. And then when someone's interested, we say, hey, go check out the piece of land. Here's the GPS or the address. They'll go check it out. And then we'll start having discussions on, if they're interested, okay, closing package. Are we using a title company? Are we closing straight through me, which I do a lot of, just self closings with pieces of land. And, if back when I was starting, now I have the credibility where I can send someone, my company website or Facebook page. But back when I was starting, people were like, I can buy land from you online. Like, you're just going to email me the closing packages. We're not working with like a realtor or a title company. Like, it is a little foreign to a lot of buyers. But if you have the systems and processes and credibility in place, you'll move past that right away. And like I said, 90% of my stuff probably I self close without a title company, straight with my buyers.
Wow. So what are the mechanics of that? How do you pull that off without a title company?
Yeah, so always make sure to have good, clean title when you buy it. Obviously, I like to get, especially in these larger pieces, title policy in place, insured, etc. So I know that I own this land free and clear. And when I go to sell it, I do just a closing package. It usually has like a closing statement and receipt, an authorization form, so I can bill them monthly through my processing system that we have in-house, a deed of trust, a promissory note, and the survey. Basically, I mean, that's it. It's like 4 or 5 documents, just a simple little email instructions. Hey, print this out, go see a notary. Here's my wiring instructions if you want to wire me a down payment or send me a check back with the documents. So we just tell them, hey, go print out these owner finance documents. It's going to be a little bit different depending on what state you're operating in, Texas, Virginia, Michigan, wherever, but it's all basically the same, a promissory note and something that secures the land that gets recorded of public record at the courthouse. And you do that yourself. I send it off to the courthouse with a recording fee. Boom, they stamp it, put it in public record, and the deal is official and they're off paying me monthly. And again, if they don't pay me, then I'm taking the land back and doing that process all over again with a new buyer.
Yeah. So guys, what you're listening to is it's basically a low friction approach to transacting. So if it's something that's unfamiliar, you don't want to give people any reason to say no to the transaction because logistically it doesn't make sense or whatever. So what it sounds like John has created is
Yes.
just really that low friction approach.
You
And
hit it right. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. That's one thing that I actually say myself is as low friction as possible. That's why I actually don't like using banks that much when I'm trying to buy a piece of land, because now I'm trying to sell part of this subdivide and I need the bank's attorneys to review documents and have the lawyers sign off and blah, blah, blah. It's like as quick as I can sell this stuff with as little friction as possible. That's how I've been able to make huge returns on investments. It's a lot different multifamily or any other sort of real estate as far as IRR is concerned. Like, I don't do anything under 100% IRR, but it's just a whole completely different ball game. But yeah, you hit it right on the head.
yeah, exactly. So you're going in there, you're making it easy for people. Once you see it one way, it's hard to unsee that, right? So you're like, I don't want to deal with this. Like our business, we've got multifamily, like large apartment complexes, and so often people make it more challenging than it has to be. Like our PSAs are
Yeah.
40 pages long,
Yeah, it's
And
incredible.
it's yeah, it's and navigating those types of things, there's just a lot. Like, well, I've done deals before that were like some of my best deals, where I, as one specifically, it was a direct to seller deal, and the guy, it was like an 80 unit deal, and he just called me on a Saturday. He's like, I want to sell this, and I was like, what do you want? He's like, I told me the price, and I was like, I'll send you a 3 page contract right now. Let's just get it done.
Yeah, man.
And
The simpler, the better. I
yeah,
love
just
it.
keep it simple. And I was like, I asked my attorney, I'm like, what's the difference between this contract that's 3 pages and like the 40 page contract? He's like, honestly, not that much. It's just simple. It's
Yeah, yeah. It's
just like it covers all the same stuff. It's just if you don't use it in like the bigger arena, you look like you don't know what you're doing, I guess. So it's just it's a lot of it's optics stupid.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're dealing with a completely different ball game. I always tell people like if you want to make as much money as you can as quick as possible, I think land is the best way to do that. However, if you want tax advantages, land is not the best way to do that. So what you're talking about with multifamily, me as myself who's made, now millions of dollars in land, but I'm paying up the butt in taxes, like now I'm looking into what you're doing, multifamily, syndication, etc. So I think each avenue has its complexities. Obviously, what you do with the long purchase agreements and super complex deals versus keeping it simple with land, but there's advantages to both, and you have a huge tax advantage. So all that red tape and everything is sort of necessary in a way.
well, the cool thing is though, also if you're doing something like you're doing with the land flipping, you can always just invest passively if you don't want to deal with all the headache. Do what you're good
Exactly.
at. You come in with an operating trust, and then you get the depreciation benefits, and you're a real estate professional, so you can take full advantage of it. So that's always a cool avenue, and then it's pretty hands off as long as you like the operator and know that they know what they're doing.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so I gotta ask you about, you just did something pretty cool. What is Cornudas, Texas?
Yeah, man. Cornudas, Texas is a small unincorporated town in West Texas out near El Paso. So it's like an hour east of El Paso, and it's got a cafe, three mobile homes, a motel, a six-spot RV park. It all sits on 28 acres right along the highway. And I bought that sucker. It would have been January 14th, 2023. So it's a few months prior to doing this podcast with you. And it's been an adventure. Let's put it that way. I've been in talks to get it on a TV show. I've been in multiple newspapers, like blew up on a reel on social media. It was like 1.5 million views on just a simple little, I put up, hey, I bought this town. And like everyone seems to be so interested that I bought a town. It's like, maybe I should be buying towns instead of buying land. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, but it's kind of been thus far more of a money hole and headache, if I'm being honest. Like last time we were out there, we found out that we have a water storage tank for our cafe because we only have one well on the property. It does 2 gallons per minute, and it's 1,800 TDS, total dissolved solids, and 44 grains of hardness. So you can't drink that water. So we can't use the water in the cafe. So we have to get the water trucked in from El Paso. And we have a 2,500 gallon storage tank, just rusted out the bottom. I filled it up. It's $280 to get 2,500 gallons delivered. Then next morning we woke up, we're trying to use a sink in a cafe to clean some stuff. Like, oh, there's no water. And we're like, well, what's going on? And we finally look in the tank and we're like, it's empty. And we came to the conclusion that it just rusted out the bottom and started leaking. And to get a new tank that's fully TCEQ approved and do it once, do it right is like $30,000. So it's always something like that out there. But one day it'll actually be a active spot, like tourist stop along the highway, and people stay out there, short-term rentals and all that stuff. It'll be kind of a cool spot to hang out.
So
That's my goal
what
for it.
is it? So first of all, what made you want to buy this town?
Yeah,
And
so
second, what is the reaction? Because I'm picturing like
uh,
that whatever that TV show is where they
it's
like,
Schitt's Creek, right? I've
yeah,
never
yeah,
seen it, but everyone's like, you need to go watch Schitt's Creek.
yeah. That's
So
what I'm picturing.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I've always been doing just really just land, nothing ground up. And I wanted to be known, I do want to be known as kind of the most respected, well-rounded person in land, like the go-to person for land. I'm like, what better way to kind of attract attention and take the next step and level up than to do this project and kind of quote unquote buy a town. And it's in Hudspeth County. So that county is actually where I did my first land deal. and I've done thousands of acres out there of just larger chunks of land and everything. So I've driven by Cornutus probably a dozen times before I actually bought it. And it came on the market early 2022, and someone sent it to me. I'm like, man, that's gonna be such a pain in the butt. It's in the middle of nowhere. I live in Fort Worth. It's 8 hours away. Like, how am I gonna manage it? There's only a few hundred people in like the surrounding 50-mile radius. Like, how am I actually gonna do this? And then finally got to the point late December. I was like, I really think I want to do this. So we went out and toured the property, and that was a whole adventure in itself. The previous owner was quite the trip. So yeah, I ended up pulling the trigger on it. And funny enough, there's another town that's for sale out there. I'm like, I might want to buy this one now too, because why not? I mean, we're already dipped our toe in the water. You might as well just do the full on leap with it.
Wow. So what do you pay for a town?
I paid, let's call it several $100,000, multi six figures, less than a million. Which, I think it was an interesting situation because the previous owner had over 100,000 in back taxes and attorney fees on the property, so he was going to lose it. And so, did I get a good deal? I mean, I probably actually could have got it for less because he was really in a tough situation. But it kind of came down to, do I want to own a spot on the map for less than $500,000? And I came to the conclusion, yes. And the hard part about it though is I couldn't, like, that was just straight cash out of my pocket. Like, I just straight up rolled up and wrote the title company a check because there was no way I could get lending in time or do anything I needed to because we're on such a tight time frame. He wanted to do like a 10-day close, shake my hand at the courthouse. I convinced him to actually use a title company and get the lien all taken care of and everything. So there was no way it was going to be any sort of a traditional deal or transaction on that one.
And he was not going to do any seller financing, of course, because he was in trouble.
Exactly.
So it was just a straight cash sale. And then so you buy the piece of land and then you go around and like meet people. What's kind of like the next thing you do?
Yeah, so immediately word started spreading that I bought it. So basically everyone found out. Everyone's had a really good, positive, excited attitude and vibe towards me, I would say, because the previous owner was kind of such an a-hole and not well liked by most people. And so they're like, okay, new energy, we're going to see what this guy can do with it. So yeah, I go out there. I immediately kind of went to all the surrounding communities and towns and kind of just started shaking hands, and people had already heard and nice to meet you. And everyone's excited for it. Everyone's had like a million different ideas on what I should do with it. You know, Everywhere from Instagram DMs to people stopping by the property, do this, do that, make this art installation and blah, blah, blah. And so it's been just like a million suggestions, which I appreciate because I've actually gotten some really good suggestions, but some of the stuff is just so far out there. So it's been fun.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm fairly familiar with El Paso. We tried to buy 500 units out there a long time ago, but
Nice.
it's definitely fairly desolate out that way. There's not, especially I can't imagine an hour outside of there.
You ever been out there?
I haven't been to Cornudas. I've been to El Paso a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's so cool. So it just kind of came up. You're like, hey, you know what? Let's go for this. And now, hey, maybe that's going to be your thing. Is you keep buying these towns. We'll see.
Yes.
That's cool. How do you add value to a town when you get in there? Is it like fixing up the local buildings? Is it trying to make all of them into tourist destinations? What's like the plan behind that?
Yeah. So there was so many things that we have done and are doing here to add value. Usually when someone's selling something like this, it's because it's been run down. Like the one I said I'm looking at to potentially buy, it's the same exact scenario. It's owned by someone who's not really a business person. And so they don't really have a business mind on how to actually make money and make it a profitable business. So in this one, for instance, we just added a $60,000 commercial grade security system. The guy had zero security. He was having a problem with people being idiots, stuff getting stolen from time to time. And so, add a security system. We're doing short-term rentals. He didn't do any short-term rentals. He had one of the mobile homes out there was rented out for $200 per month, which is just like absolutely obscene. You could rent them for like 100 or 150 per night, just short-term rentals. And so there's plenty of space to add short-term rentals. Stuff was run down. So, you know, getting proper air conditioning in there, beefing up the menu in the cafe, selling stuff like gas, firewood, and ice, and simple convenience items like that, which he was not doing. And so there's just so many different things, you know, that we could and are doing. Expand the RV park. That's super simple, right? There's 6 spots. There's room for like 15 or 20. It's like just go in there and make more RV spots. He didn't have a primitive campsite. Like I can't think of anything easier other than having a primitive campsite where people just go pitch a tent and look at Guadalupe Mountain National Park out there and enjoy a sunset. I want to do like fire pits on every camping and short-term rental spot and then sell them firewood. So it's like simple things like that where it's all self-enclosed and, you know, people go out there and have a great time, but at the same time it helps generate business and, you know, nothing's free, unfortunately. So you need to make money in order to make it a thing. In order to, for me to own this town, I need to make money.
So you don't just, it's not like you just buy the land, you're buying like all the businesses as well inside of this.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
So, that's so cool. I mean, I could see how it would be like a lot of, a lot of work to figure out where you're going to start doing things and all that stuff. But it sounds like there's, a lot of possibilities is to just be creative, come up with revenue sources.
And one thing that kind of popped into my mind, I've been thinking about this a lot in West Texas, like doing some sort of simple multifamily setup. I don't want to call it like in the desert, but there's this one spot. I think it's like on I-20. It's either east or west of Abilene, where there's literally just like one or two buildings. It's probably just a 16 or 32 unit apartment complex. It's kind of just like out in the middle of the desert. So is there room for something like that out there? If I could actually get some decent water, I think so. And I don't know, you would know more than me, but I think something like that's got to be relatively simple and straightforward to construct. Just one building with 16 or 32 rooms in it, and just people can live out there full time in the desert and be away from the city.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, it just comes down to what is your cost to build? And then, what would that be worth later on an equity basis and all that stuff? But that could be a real possibility, which is great. Jon, man, it's been great to talk to you. It's a really interesting story. How can people reach you if they want to get a hold of you?
So I'm just at Jon Jasniak, JonJasniak, at Jon Jasniak on all social media. I'm pretty big on Instagram, trying to grow the YouTube, but Instagram's kind of my main resource. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a message, shoot me an email. I mean, I answer all that stuff. If you got questions about land, about real estate, whatever, I mean, if you DM me on Instagram, I will answer probably same day. So I don't know. I just like helping people. I like looking at deals, especially if you have deals like land deals you want me to look at. Like I love just offering free advice on deals. I don't know. Looking at deals is probably my favorite part of the game, honestly.
Awesome, Jon. Thanks so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Garrett. Appreciate it.